here over the approval of the electors, the Electoral College for the 2020 presidential election. Again, something that ordinarily we don't really talk a whole heck of a lot about. Today would have been ordinarily you may have a House member object, you may have somebody stand up and say something, but ordinarily this is pro forma. It happens very quickly. But with so many Americans having so many concerns over whether or not there were irregularities or fraud that occurred in this election in a number of states. We have 140 members of the House and at least a dozen members of the Senate who are willing to at least allow a process that is provided for in the law to unfold, in which there is a debate and a vote that takes place in each House of Congress over these specific electors. And in addition to Arizona, we are hearing that the Georgia slate of electors will be may be objected to, the Pennsylvania slate, and Wisconsin at a minimum. And again, we're continuing to look at footage taken. This is amateur footage taken from inside the U.S. Capitol building. And just to recap for you, both houses of Congress have temporarily adjourned because of a breach in Capitol security. Vice President Mike Pence has been evacuated from the Capitol by the Secret Service. The Vice President was presiding over the Senate and the Senate debate over the Arizona slate of electors. D.C. Mayor the D.C. mayor has ordered a 6 p.m. curfew to ensure that there is not additional violence and disruption. You can see this video here of folks engaging with the Capitol Police, and it's very clear that that breach did happen in the Capitol. So again, a long day. Looks like it's going to be even longer. And hopefully the security at the Capitol security, the Secret Service, will be able to get these protesters out of the building and get them, get things under control so that the process can play itself out today. Many Americans we're looking forward to this debate, to hearing this debate in both houses. Josh Hawley was going to be raising some issues about big tech. Ted Cruz also expected to speak later today about his idea of a commission and an emergency audit of the election. So all of that is yet to unfold here today. But of course, this level of disruption and a security breach at the Capitol is not something that they're going to play around with. They're going to make sure that the members of Congress and their staff, the Vice President and others are safe, and they're going to deal with the security breach first before anything else. And again, just to recap, the House and Senate are in recess for an indeterminate amount of time while the security breach at the U.S. Capitol is dealt with. Again, those pictures coming from an area that looks to be what is known as the crypt. It's an area directly beneath the Capitol Rotunda and the dome. And that's an area that is directly in between both houses. So you could, on the lower level of the U.S. Capitol, you can go in one direction and you get to the Senate. You go to the other direction, you get to the House chamber. And of course, members have been asked to take the lower levels either to their offices or to some area of safety in accordance with the Capitol Police's protocols to ensure that there aren't any interactions here with these protesters who are, very clearly seem adamant on trying to not only make their presence known, but break the law in breaching the U.S. Capitol security here. As I had mentioned to Emerald Robinson, since 9/11, the Capitol has reduced the number of entrances where you can get into the Capitol, even in the House and Senate office buildings. Security has been beefed up tremendously. Anybody who goes into the U.S. Capitol that is not a staff person has to go through the Capitol Visitor Center. You have to go through a metal detector. There are a number of Capitol security police officers at every entrance. There are barricades that are set up to ensure that vehicles cannot get as close to the Capitol as they used to. Even a number of the House and Senate office buildings. So it's no small feat to try and push your way past that, and it'll be interesting to see just exactly how these folks managed to get through all of the security, and that security was logically heightened today, given the importance of what is going on inside the U.S. Capitol building. And again, the D.C. mayor has ordered a 6 p.m. curfew. That is also something coming up in just a few hours that is going to necessitate this large group of people that has marched up Pennsylvania Avenue from the White House to the west front of the Capitol to disperse. And again, it does set up what could be, unfortunately, a violent interaction between police officers, Metropolitan Police officers, and protesters. We certainly hope that that doesn't happen. It's absolutely critical for this process that we've all joined this to watch today to continue. In order for that to continue, we need to be able to have the security situation under control, and it will not continue until that security situation is under control. So, again, we certainly hope that this does not get more violent than we have already seen it, and the process can continue. It's a very orderly process in the House and in the Senate. It is prescribed by law and by the Constitution. And we're now going to go to Jeffrey Lord and to John Brown for their reaction to what they are seeing on their screens. An unprecedented day in America. I'm not sure that we ever thought that we would quite see this happen. John Brown is a columnist for the American Spectator. John Brown is a former advisor to President Trump, and Jeffrey Lord is a columnist for the American Spectator. Jeffrey, let me go to you first. You're a student of American history. You've kind of seen it all, but we've never seen anything quite like this.
Well, when I lived in Washington for a long time, and I have to say, the Million Man March, the March for Life. Before I arrived in Washington, there were anti-Vietnam War protests that were considerable size and nature. I remember in the Nixon era, I was in college for this, they had to park buses around the White House to protect the White House from demonstrators. So Washington has seen a lot of this. And I should just add on a personal note, Tom, I've been out in this since 6:30 this morning. I had a guest pass for the event with the president. It's cold out there, let me tell you that. But let me just also say that I was with, tens of thousands of people and saw no violence whatsoever.
Right.
Are they passionate about what they believe to be a stolen election? Yes. But other than the clips I'm seeing from you, I saw absolutely none of that when I was there, and I've only recently gotten back into my hotel room. So, for the number of people there, I think this has been remarkable.
Okay. I'm going to John. I'm going to get to you in just a second, but we have Michael Carter, who's one of our reporters who's on the scene. He's on the phone, but he's on the scene at the rally in Washington, D.C. Michael, what can you tell us about what you're seeing and hearing right now?
I am on the front steps of the Capitol right now with about, I would say, a good 3,000 to 4,000 people. The protesters on the front lawn of the Capitol looking about 100,000 people stemming all the way down to the the Washington Monument. The front lawn of the Capitol completely filled with Trump flags, "Don't Tread on Me" flags, Trump supporters out wanting their voices to be heard. They say they haven't been heard at the ballot box. They haven't been heard by the media, and this is their last resort. Around 1:30 this afternoon Eastern Time, protesters, about a dozen of them, were able to breach the Capitol steps from Capitol Police and made it halfway up the steps before being forced back down by tear gas. Now, that worked for about 20 minutes or so, but the sheer mass of protesters out here, supporters of the president, just kept growing and growing to the point where the few dozen police officers guarding the steps just were simply overrun. Now,
so wait, Mike, let me interrupt you for a second. Are you saying
Sure.
that you saw protesters break through a police line?
Yes, the protesters, there was a police line. Is this Tom? Excuse me, Tom.
Yes.
Forgive me, we are running and gunning right now, Tom.
Yep.
We were halfway up the lawn of the front lawn of the Capitol. Police did have control of the front steps of the Capitol, maintaining a barrier, but a sheer number, hundreds, what turned into thousands of protesters simply fought their way through, even through tear gas, pushing up the steps, and just simply overpowered Capitol Police to the point where police just gave in. And I was just coming, Tom, from the top of the scaffold where on Inauguration Day you'll see dozens of supporters or whoever is the president sitting up there.
All right, we seem to have lost Michael Carter just temporarily here, and we haven't. Do we? Okay, we have a live feed. We're taking a live look at that looks like the east front of the Capitol. And you're seeing that what Michael Carter was telling us is that they have pushed past the barricades and they have climbed up the steps of the Capitol. I'm not quite sure which portico that is, which part of the Capitol that is, but clearly they have overrun the Capitol Police barricades that were put in place to try and do some sort of crowd control there. And from the looks of it, again, they're not supposed to be there, and we certainly don't condone that. But there is a difference between people standing on the steps of the Capitol and what we saw in those videos inside. And but clearly there is. He said there's 100,000 people, a mass of people going back to the Washington Monument. And they've climbed up even onto the grandstand that is being built right now for the presidential inauguration, which will happen on January 20th. We're panning back, and it does. You can see that this is the east front of the Capitol, so it's sort of the front of the building, the opposite side of where Mike Carter was. John Brown, I'd like to go back to you. Your thoughts on this? The president spoke today at about 11:30 before a lot of these protesters had come up to the Capitol. He had a very defiant tone, threatened a number of primaries of Republican officials, but clearly has a lot of fight in him. Your thoughts on what you've seen in Washington, D.C. today?
Well, Jeff said the key word, which was passion. This is a crowd of people looking at it, largely Republican. I can see a lot of maga hats and things like that, who are absolutely furious that this election has been so obviously rigged, and these pussyfoot senators and congressmen in the Republican Party who fail to stand up to it. And they are saying if our elected representatives won't stand, then we will do something about it. And this is what you're seeing, as you've seen in other countries before, a passion that has said, to hell with our elected representatives, we're going to march on the place.
Right.
And I think absolutely correct.
All right. So, John, but what is that? Again, there is a legal process that was underway in the Capitol to debate these electors. The law is very clear about how this works. There isn't that much gray area here. What do you think they should hope to accomplish from what they are doing right now, breaching the security of the Capitol?
You said yourself the Constitution and a legal system. The Supreme Court was established to protect the Constitution. And according to Articles 2 and 3, the Supreme Court was bound lawfully to hear the Texas case, but it refused. And by putting itself above the Constitution and above the law, it did not even bother to hear the evidence.
Mm-hmm. I'm Tom Basile, and this is American Agenda, a momentous day in Washington, D.C. It's almost not to be believed what we are seeing. In the last hour, let me catch you up on what has happened today. First, a large rally on the Ellipse in front of the White House. President Trump, very passionate, very defiant, spoke to his supporters there. Those supporters have now marched up Pennsylvania Avenue. At that time, both houses of Congress met to begin the certification process of the Electoral College. After the electors for the state of Alaska were accepted, it was Arizona's turn, and Congressman Paul Gosar and Senator Ted Cruz both objected to the Arizona electors. At that point, we saw both houses adjourn and begin debate. Now, what's important to note, and the reason why, the reason why you are not seeing that debate happen is because the protesters from earlier in the day have breached Capitol security. They have breached the inside of the U.S. Capitol, forcing a lockdown and a recess of both houses of Congress. Vice President Mike Pence, we have been told, was evacuated from the Capitol by the U.S. Secret Service. And the D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser has ordered a 6 p.m. curfew. You're looking live at pictures of thousands of protesters who have breached the security of the U.S. Capitol, and they have camped out in front to send a message to the members of Congress who are debating the fate of this election and the future of the nation with this Electoral College vote today. And again, we did have some video earlier you may have seen where we can confirm that there are protesters who have scuffled with police inside the U.S. Capitol building. But what you can see here are, it's not something that is unusual. We've seen American flags and Trump flags and Gadsden flags, and people wanting to be heard. Again, there are polling that shows that up to 80% of Republicans believe that there were there's fraudulent activity in this election. 46% of all Americans believe that as well. And again, a live look at the east front of the U.S. Capitol. And let's go to Emerald Robinson, who has been in lockdown in the Cannon House office building. Emerald, what's the latest from your vantage point?
Well, look, we're still in lockdown. We're actually seeing more members of the House of Representatives kind of make their way through the hallway here. We've seen several members of the Democrats come through here talking about the situation. As of right now, they, have recessed both houses. There's not a lot of guidance on what's going to happen. According to members we talked to, they haven't heard if they're going to reconvene, at what point, what the projection is on this. There's essentially no plan as of right now on how to continue with this debate and then the joint session of Congress, given the situation at the Capitol right now.
Okay, we are seeing some additional photos of what looks like either a smoke bomb going off or it's actually a fire extinguisher that one of the protesters has in the Capitol, and then and protesters now having moved up to the main floor of the Capitol as well. What would be interesting?
I talked to some people who. I was just going to tell you, I also talked to another group of people who had been in the rally crowd, and they were on the eastern side of the building, they said, when, some of the protesters got through. And again, what they were telling me, like another group, is that they feel that there are agitators within the rally goers that are not necessarily Trump supporters. So again, we've gotten that from more groups that we've talked to who have been interacting with the crowd.
Yeah, and again, that type of thing happens. It's certainly a risk anytime that you have any kind of a protest like this, where you could have agitators that are posing as supporters who are there simply to break the law and to promote violent confrontation. But hopefully some of these folks will actually end up getting arrested, and we'll know who they are. Because we have seen some video of some violent confrontations with police, and obviously that we can't, that shouldn't be stood for. And going through a police barricade or overrunning a police line is also something that is certainly not to be encouraged.
And then I talked to another group of people who said that they were just simply in the crowd and everything was fine, and they're not even sure how it's like they got pushed up towards the Capitol. So there's a large number of people outside.
Yeah.
And clearly I can't see the outsides. I'm just talking to people from within the confines of this Capitol Hill fortress as it is right now about their experiences on the ground and how they're seeing things.
Emerald, has there been any indication if the Capitol Police cannot get control of the building or create an atmosphere that they are comfortable with and end the lockdown, what happens? Is this something that just then goes all night? Do they push the session into tomorrow? Do they adjourn for the day and come back after these people are swept out? How does that work?
Tom, there's really no answer for that. Like I said, reporters have surrounded the members of Congress here to ask them that very question to see if they've gotten any guidance on how this will go if it continues outside. What does that mean for inside the building here? And no one's quite sure yet. We're still reaching out to people. We're trying to reach out to leadership and see what they can tell us. We're trying to talk to the Capitol Police as we interact with them here. And right now, there's not a lot of answers on that.
Okay. In terms of, any kind of response yet from the White House, they have been watching this unfold now for the last, 45 minutes or so. Have you heard anything from your contacts?
I have not.
Okay.
Not yet.
All right. Well, we hope that you continue to stay safe and make sure that we get those updates from your vantage point. Emerald Robinson.
Yeah.
In a bunker someplace, in a basement somewhere, on lockdown.
Well, it's actually a duck and donuts right here in the Capitol. At least we have coffee.
Yeah, okay. Have a coffee and a donut for me, please.
Like this.
All right. Well, do stay safe, and we will dip back to you as soon as we can. Okay.
Thanks, Tom.
And I'd like to toss now to Amir Benno. He's an attorney, a GOP strategist. And would like Amir, you've been watching this over the last hour. You've been watching this unfold. The process on Capitol Hill has now ground to a halt because of violence. Your thoughts on what you have seen unfold in our nation's capital over the last hour?
Wow, nothing like I've ever seen before. I think that people can understand how frustration might drive people to take these